Either we participate and protect those rights and get allies to help us protect those rights. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work.
Show me one time it's worked.
No, well, there's lots of times it's worked. I mean, we have
one.
Muslims make approximately 5% of the UK population and they are growing. But do they have enough influence over the political system in this country? Today on Finding the Balance, we ask, should British Muslims vote? Who's yes and who's no?
100% yes.
Yes. Yes.
That's like asking, should Muslims follow Sharia law? Do you know what I mean? Should you follow the law that, you know, is for Muslims or not? Or should we go against it? That's pretty much what you're asking.
So are you a no?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
If you're...
What is democracy? If we're going to look at it, we have to look at what is democracy. I think everyone's going to agree. Democracy is giving power to the people, right? And then the people voting amongst themselves. So that takes away the power from Allah. Do you understand? We don't have any part in that. And with democracy, you can even sway decisions get changed. Like, I don't want to say it on this channel, but we know what's happening in our society, what's allowed now, what's being put into our schools. This is all because of democracy. You've taken the power, you've taken power and you've given it to the people, which is against Islamic principles. So if anyone wants to go against that, that's up to them. I know people, Muslims are going to come to the masjid, vote Labour. What happened last time we voted Labour? 1 million Iraqis dead. Do you see what I mean? So you're going to say vote, vote, vote. Vote for a maslahah, like the better of the community. What? You're going to get more benefits or something. You think that's a maslahah? You think that's a greater benefit for the community? So you're going to indulge in democracy, which we all know every single leader is a liar. They're going to say anything to pump their narrative. As soon as they get in, it's not exactly what they said. So for me, it's an absolute no. Don't get involved with it. It's almost like shirk.
If we back up from the labels, even democracy is a label. There's a strong principle in Islam of consensus, of ijma.
That's amongst Muslim leaders, though, and scholars.
I mean, you know,
we don't have that here.
Everything has a definition, right?
Yeah, but we don't have that here.
The definition of leader, the definition of
yeah, but a non-Muslim can't be a leader over the Muslims.
Well, if you live in a Western country, yeah, I mean, if you live in a Western country, your rights are protected by the legislative process, and you either surrender yourself to those rights, which can be wheedled it against you. We've seen what governments have done when Muslims don't participate or advocate. Think of the political process as a way, as a bully pulpit, a way to get your feelings across about the rights that you need to enjoy in society, regardless of whether you're a minority or the majority. The fact is, we're all minorities in this country, in the West, and we have a choice. Either we participate and protect those rights and get allies to help us protect those rights. It doesn't always work. It doesn't always work.
Show me one time it's worked.
No, well, there's lots of times it's worked. I mean, we have one. Well, I'm going to speak as an American, right?
No, but we're in England.
I know. No, but I've lived in England for 20 years. But my growing process in America, in the political process, was to enforce my rights as promised by the Constitution of the United States. The freedom of worship, the freedom of myself to practice Islam.
But you've already got those rights in the Constitution.
Well, the thing is, but you have to protect those rights.
If you've got those rights, why do you need to protect them?
Because people try to take those rights away from you. You do not have a constitution in this country. One of the things I've realized coming to the UK is that because those rights aren't codified, they can be taken away.
Out of interest, when you talked about those rights that you've got from the Constitution, do you really feel like you have those rights, you know, the right to worship everywhere? There's lots of Western countries, we've just seen in France that they've banned hijab. Yeah. That's not the right to worship. But when it comes to Muslims, we say, oh, we've got the right through the Constitution and the government uphold this, but you wait for the police to come and protect you when you're praying in the street and someone comes and beats you up. Your rights are forgotten.
This is the problem, is that, you know, if you have rights codified, a lot of people want to suppress those rights. I mean, people in the majority in society. This happens in America all the time. What you need to do is to rely on the system to live up to its ideals, whatever that system is. Otherwise, you're helpless. You're going to be disenfranchised. You're going to be marginalized. You're going to be denied the right to participate in society writ large. So what do? The thing is, do you surrender that right to make your life better and to protect your community? Because at the moment, if you don't participate in the political process, you are surrendering that right. You have nothing to turn to to protect
But
yourself.
what is the right that you think that you've got?
Well, what
the
are the
right
rights?
to vote for someone who's bad or someone who's worse?
Yeah, possibly.
What kind of
possibly.
right is that?
But look what happened, for example, in America. We have two very admirable Muslim congresswomen, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who advocate for the Palestinian cause, who advocate for Muslims in a way that no one in America ever has. And it's not about the legislation they put forward. They are changing the way that people view Muslims by being leaders and advocating for their communities, whether they're Muslim or not. And I think that's made a huge difference. This wasn't possible before Trump, in fact. It's because somebody really pushed the boundaries and wanted to get Muslims out of the country that Muslims stood up and said, you know what, I'm not going to take this anymore. I am going to participate. I'm going to take advantage of the rights that I have in this country, and I'm going to show that this country can be a better place. If you don't do that, you're surrendering. You might as well wave the white flag.
But what you're surrendering to, yeah, is anything.
No, it's not anything.
You are, because when you vote, yeah, you're forgetting about all the other things that are changing in our society.
No, you're not.
LGBT, all of these, everything else.
You're not forgetting it.
You're legitimizing it.
No, you're not
Of course you are,
legitimizing
because
it.
you're being part of it. You're legitimizing
No, but you're
it.
saying that you are a part of the society whether you vote or not. By living here, you're a part of society. You cannot just pick and choose the things that you want to participate in. Because you live here.
Yeah,
because
so
everything
I can
affects you,
choose.
you affect everything else. That's the way society is.
But that's my choice. I choose to live here. I can move to another country. But I choose to live here because I can deal with whatever rubbish comes our way from our government.
It's not about insisting that you vote. It's about advocating for the right of people to vote, which I think you agree that people have the right to vote if they want to.
Yeah.
You might have an opinion on that.
No, they have the right to vote.
Right.
As Muslims,
As
should we be
Muslims.
participating in something that our religion forbids us to do?
That is where we disagree. I do not agree that the religion forbids it. You are required to follow the laws of the country where you live.
No, you're not.
You
You're talking absolute nonsense.
it's-
Nobody is required to follow the laws of the land, and you're not going to be able to get one piece of evidence to say that you must follow the law of the land. This is something that modest, like westernized Muslims come and bring to the table, and it's like, mate, can you actually bring one piece of evidence to say that we must obey the law of the land?
You're not forced
You're not
to
going
do,
to find it. No,
what
but
are
you just
forced-
made a statement.
But what are you forced to do in this
slow
country
down.
that you don't agree
You
with?
just
That
made
you
a
can't-
statement.
That's not Islamic.
You just made a statement that we're supposed to follow the laws of the land, right? But we're not.
Yeah, we
so
are.
that's a false
Well,
claim.
what are you forced to do in terms of the laws of the land in this country that is against
tell you what,
Islam? What are you forced to do? Pay taxes?
Accept certain things.
What
Ideologies.
you're not forced to accept anything.
You are, basically. You can't speak out against Palestine here. You can't speak
course
out
you
against Israel, sorry.
Of course you can.
So you can't. No, you can't.
Yes.
You will get marginalised.
Yes,
You'll
Qureshi
get.
and Al-Shah did it in Parliament. They openly do it in Parliament all the time.
I'm just going to bring this back. No, it's all good. Don't worry. I'm just going to bring this back. I just want to ask, because I know it's a hot topic. Tamim and Mariam, have you ever voted?
Yeah.
Yeah? Why?
For a multitude of reasons, but I do believe in the lesser evil. So I've never gone to a polling booth thinking this person is aspirational and I follow every single policy and every single agenda that they have. But especially when it comes to world affairs, I've gone and voted for people that I think would have an influence in the right direction and reduce the persecution of Muslims on the world stage. And also, coming back to this brother's point, just people that would be more likely to protect our rights. You raised the question around banning burqas and whatnot. I'm not scared of what politicians do. I'm more scared of what they think to do, but don't because they know people have power, right? So I agree with the brother here as well that democracy is inherently flawed. But one of the pros of it as well is that people do have a level of value, and politicians have to pander to that, and that's why they lie a lot, right? They want to please everyone. But it's also the reason why they're reluctant or won't do things that would cause them to lose general consensus or general support.
I get really confused when people say that they vote, because pretty much everyone that votes agrees that democracy is broken.
Yeah.
Everyone I've spoken to. So why do you continue to participate in a system that's broken? I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm not saying I know what the solution is.
It's cause and effect, right? It's like having a bicycle that's broken. If that's all you have, then ride that bike because it's going to help you get to your destination quicker, right? It doesn't, just because the system is broken doesn't mean you fully disengage from it.
You don't have to get on that bike.
Yeah, it
Walk
would be
instead?
easier to walk to your destination
But then it
than
will be
to
the
ride
same
a
people who don't
bike.
vote then complain about these things
Exactly.
that happen. So it's like when you've got your chance, take it then.
At the end of the day, within our religion, we've been given guidance, but we also have to think about it internally. You know, why have we been given that guidance? Why does it work like this? What could be the reasons behind it? Okay, we won't know every single reason, but we have to consider it. So my confusion is if everyone thinks democracy is broken, and Islam has given us, you know, directions in saying that actually not everyone should vote for a leader. Certain people who have knowledge of the political sphere should put a leader forwards. Why do we not even consider that as an option anymore? It's just that I feel like Westernism and Western imperialism is built on this concept of democracy and freedom, and we don't even know what it means.
Freedom
we just
to do
say
absolutely
democracy, democracy, we love democracy, but we don't think about what it means.
For generations, it's been freedom for a minority of people to rule over a majority of people. And that's, it has been flawed. It's been flawed since its inception. But while you're in the country that is operating under democratic ideals, you can always try to improve it. Look at what has happened in legislative terms. And I'm going to go back and use the American model, the civil rights movement, you know, Brown versus Board of Education, all of the things that had to happen through the political and legislative process to improve people's lives for the better. We're not there yet. Nobody is there yet. I'm sorry, you cannot point me to a single Muslim country that is doing a better job of keeping their populations happy, being led or being or voting or being led than
I can actually.
in the West.
Brunei.
Brunei, are we seriously going to talk about autocrats and kings as a way to lead our people? People won't stand for it. People are fleeing Afghanistan. Why? Because they are afraid of being disenfranchised. Not that the occupation was horrible. It was a horrible decision to go into Afghanistan. But people don't want to be led by force. They want to be involved in the way that their lives are run. And that means they have to choose their leaders. That means they have to put their opinions forth. That means they have to change with the times as they see it based on their understanding of Sharia, based on their understanding of Islam. And multiple opinions will matter in that process. It won't be just one opinion.
If we fully disengage though, what's to stop a leader, a prime minister, a president just acting on their whims, right? So if they want to ban the burqa.
Mate, they already do that. If you look at, if you already look, at the war in Iraq, the majority of the people here voted no. They still went in, and it was an illegal war. Wait a minute. First and foremost, it was a Labour Party, and I'm sure all the Muslims out there were rallying, vote Labour, vote Labour. You lot got blood on your hands. You lot participated, you lot helped that government go into Iraq and make those decisions because you voted, you was part of it. So for me, I think the lesser evil is I'm not going to vote. I don't need to vote, yeah? If this country gets that bad, I'll leave. Do you understand?
You don't think it gives a resistance? So for people to prime ministers to do make extreme decisions or legislation?
What would
the fact
be a
that they
resistance is if so few people voted that democracy just didn't stand up anymore. You know, if like 10 people out of the whole country voted because everyone thinks democracy is a bad idea.
That's what's happening. I mean, look, people are trying to suppress the votes of disenfranchised minorities, whether they're Muslims, blacks, you name it. They're trying to make sure that they don't go and vote so that a very elite population can vote and actually bend the laws to their whim.
But they're doing that anyway.
Well,
regardless,
you're basically surrendering. You're basically saying,
think about this.
I can't do anything
all the
about
Muslims
it.
in this country, we're insignificant when it comes to voting.
But our allies and us
We're insignificant. Well, if we got allies, we don't need to vote then. Let our allies do it.
Yeah, but see, but that's a bit lazy. If they come to you for
it's nothing
support,
to do with lazy. It's
and
about,
you don't care about them, why should they care about you?
It's about obeying your Lord first and foremost.
But we all do. I'm sorry. You keep saying it's either or.
When you vote,
we all obey
you're
our
disobeying
Lord.
Allah and His
No, I disagree with you.
I have a question. Do you feel like you're well placed and in a position of knowledge to vote on who should lead a country?
Once you start to make those judgments, then you are basically saying there are people, everyone's inferior to you if they are not, and we can't, that's the problem.
I studied politics.
What were you going to say?
I don't think
I think it's better to vote because we're in a country where anything Parliament does, anything the government does, we're directly affected. So why would we not vote to make our situation better than what it is? There's not a lot of Muslim women in politics, not a lot of Muslim men that are speaking out for us, and we're going to sit here and say, oh no, let's not vote because it's already a bad situation, let's make it worse. Why would you do that?
The reason to not vote though is obeying your religion. Do you understand? That's my argument here. It's not permissible for us, to have a legislative partner or something with Allah. Do you see what I mean? Giving the power to the people and all, that's against our religion. That's against our principles. Anybody can come in here and try and sugarcoat it as much as they want. But you get it? But we're not allowed to do it as Muslims.
The whole political process involves people who don't agree with each other, right? Just because you participate, that doesn't mean they all agree. The Labour Party doesn't agree with the Conservative Party, doesn't agree with the Greens, okay? but they participate because they want to advocate their point of view and they want to protect their rights.
Yeah, and you said, Nadia, about point about you didn't know your rights, you didn't know. Why would you not advocate for something that you don't know and like hold people accountable for what they're doing?
Because I don't think voting is holding people accountable for what they're doing. I think it's putting the wrong people in power. If you give me 2 bad options and I tell you, oh, I picked the less bad option, I've still chosen a bad option. Do you know what I mean? Why would I vote in a system that doesn't give me a good option?
Having a say is better than not having a say, ultimately. It is.
Well,
it is,
it's
because
like
then you
you're
might as
giving
well
me
just seal your mouth and not say a word about
to
anything.
choose from.
Why
4
can't you
swear
speak out
words.
against both of them?
I'd rather not say anything.
Against what?
Why can't you speak out against both of them? Both leaders say they're both corrupt.
Yeah, of
they're both
course.
so that's the better option. That I'm going to pick this one.
I think
'Cause
we could be, that's the beauty of it.
subjective,
Make
right?
people earn your vote by being critical of them and saying, look, I'm going to vote for you, but if you don't do what we need, I'm going to vote for your, that's the whole political
But in the
process
meantime,
works.
for the next 4 years,
But
Yes.
coming back to like world affairs, though, that surely in the past, but there's been decision points where one leader would have taken us to war and one would not have taken us to war. And to say our vote's insignificant, Muslims, how many are we? 4.6 million or something. So we're like 4%, or more. So it's still, elections have been won and lost on that kind of percentage. So, to think that we could actually stop a war happening, potentially.
Can I ask a question? The society you believe in that would be just and Islamic does not exist and has never existed and will never exist.
say that again.
The society that you want to live in, that you'd feel comfortable with
I'm
your leadership.
comfortable here.
I'm saying, but in terms of leadership, right? You're not comfortable if you're unhappy with the political process because that governs every aspect of your life. But the problem is we look at an ideal that doesn't exist in practice. It never has existed in practice,
So we've
other than
never
Salih
had-
Salam in the days of the Prophet. And is not likely to exist in practice because people want agency. They want control over their lives. They don't want to surrender that to people who are not chosen by
So
them.
they're willing to surrender to democracy, but they're not willing to surrender
You're
to...
using
Whoa.
words.
No, but
democracy, I'm just saying, it's a label, right?
Like democracy, surrender to democracy, or you can
Call it
surrender to
something
Sharia.
else. How do you choose those leaders who lead over you? How do you choose it? Call it something else.
In the Islamic world, not everybody can vote. Only the scholars can vote.
And who
to put
appoints
a
those
leader-
scholars?
To put a leader.
Who appoints
They're
the
recognised
scholars?
through through lineage, through study, through their qualifications, through all of these things there. So you know who the scholar is amongst you.
But that ideal has never been put into practice in a way that's sustainable. It just hasn't.
Well, then that's like saying democracy's never been
No,
sustainable.
I'm not talking about democracy. I'm
Anything,
talking about the
nothing's
Islamic
sustainable.
ideal of scholars, either self-selected or people agreeing that they're the ones to lead, have led sustainably in any Muslim majority country.
So
it just has
the
not
Ottomans ruled for how many hundreds of years?
Yeah.
That's got nothing
They
to
don't
do with
exist
it.
anymore.
I know they don't exist anymore. That's because
But they
because
thrived for hundreds of years, the longest standing.
But so did
you know.
non-Muslim empires. I mean, it doesn't mean that it's because of Islam that they thrived.
No, it's
the
because of the
Romans, and the
principles.
Greeks.
Because of the principles. Yeah.
I
But
just
so
feel
did the
like,
Roman principles and the Greek principles.
But
They,
this love for democracy, I feel like, has come out of Western imperialism. And as long as we continue on this path of we need democracy, we need freedom, we need this, we need that, it is a continuation of neocolonialism. It is a continuation of, the West expanding its ideals. Most of us don't even know what democracy actually
Can I
Democracy
ask
is-
a question?
yeah.
I'm so sorry
Sorry,
to
go
interrupt, Nadia. So let me ask you a question. If for whatever reason your rights were to be completely taken away and you couldn't leave the country you were living in, would you then look for democracy or not? That's just a question.
I wouldn't look for democracy because I still wouldn't have the qualifications to say who I think
I
should
forgot-
be a good leader.
We had this quote, but democracy is the worst political process on the face of the earth, but it's better than all the rest. I mean, it is, we all agree that democracy is absolutely flawed. It is absolutely flawed. And yet, people cross seas and oceans to come to lands where democracy, they do,
don't
because
cross
democracy,
seas and oceans to come to a land where they
You-
have
you-
rights
but
and
you
they have
separate-
freedom. People cross seas and oceans to come to a land where they're safe because that same country has gone in and ruined their country.
fair enough. But other countries in Europe, for example, that are prosperous, are not prosperous because they plundered, not every country has plundered.
What are the benefits of democracy?
Exactly.
What are they?
Mariam?
Sorry, what was the
Seema?
question?
What
Any
are the
good things that have
benefits
come
of
out of democracy? Benefits? Why do you vote?
I don't.
Think of it that way.
You vote because you feel like you've got a
Personally,
voice.
I vote to, my main thing that I think about when I look at a leader is just foreign policy. Like if I can have an influence on foreign policy in some shape or form. So someone who's more sympathetic to not killing people essentially and being vicious in that respect, that gets my sympathy in the voting booth.
When President Trump was elected, I flew into the U.S. a week after he was inaugurated, and I saw a sea of humanity at the airport protesting against his decision to ban Muslims from coming to the United States. Almost none of them were Muslim, but they were advocating on behalf of Muslims. And Muslims in America got together with these allies to coordinate to vote Trump out, and it succeeded. And there was so much potential harm that was prevented by
Biden's
getting
the
that
better
man
guy,
out of
yeah.
office. But it was not going to happen any other way.
Biden's the better guy, right?
No, look, you know what?
Come on.
Compared to Trump, yes, he is. Is he perfect? No. And this is the problem: is we assign these ideals to everything we do, and we can never reach those ideals. But it doesn't mean that we do nothing. If we just said, well, Trump's leader, and he's going to ban Muslims, and he's going to make our life hell, whatever. We didn't do that, and we succeeded.
No one says don't do nothing.
Why is not voting doing nothing?
That's the be-all and end-all. You're saying voting is the be-all and end-all for persuasion and change. It's not.
Yeah. But to get Trump
like
out of office was the only way.
About giving dawah to your neighbours, giving them food and all that. This is real Islam. Lead by example, someone said here earlier, yeah? Right? So lead by example in your communities, like stand out in your communities, do you understand? Not just conform to the non-Muslims' ideology and vote because you feel like you have to, because you think, hold on for a minute, these two bad guys, this one's better than the other. That's not what a Muslim should be doing.
So this discussion's a lot spicier than I thought it would be, but I just wanted to ask, has anyone changed their initial opinion on whether British Muslims should vote or not? You two have been very quiet this debate, so
Yeah,
I'm really interested to hear from you two.
Because my kind of initial judgment of this question was that if you have the right to vote, vote. Like you have a right, use it. Like you have a voice, use it. Because sometimes it's the people who don't vote then say like, oh, why is this happening? Why is this if when you had a chance to feed in your opinion, why didn't you do it? So I think sometimes people just follow like their parents or what their family are doing or what their friends are doing. Like, oh, they're voting for these people. Oh, I'm going to go and do that. They don't do enough research. So I think for me, it's kind of changed my mind. Like, yes, you do have the right, use it, but do your research. Do your research on kind of both sides on that. Are you qualified and is it haram? And if it is, then...
No, certainly, yes, very
One of the brothers brought up a point around halal haram, and that's definitely something that I'd like to explore in deeper detail now that we've had this conversation. But with my knowledge that I have today, I think it's definitely a good idea that Muslims stay engaged in the political process.
I would stick to saying if you have the right to vote, then definitely go for it. Because sometimes when those people don't vote, it will be the same people saying, well, why is this happening? Why is this happening? So I would say if you have the chance to vote, then use it, like use your voice.
I feel like other panellists, they all had strong views about how, scholars should be in charge, but we're not living in like a demographic where there is scholars and there's, people that we can really look to. It's really Boris Johnson, and that's all we really have to look to. So I feel like we have to make our situation better.
I think British Muslims should stay away from voting and, participating in something that, first and foremost, what I believe is our religion does not permit it. It's not permissible in Islam. And secondly, it's a failed system, democracy, power to the people, and anything goes. Stay away from it. It's a grey area, and our religion teaches us that if there's a grey area to protect you and your deen, stay away from it. Just leave it at that.
I believe that we should participate, even though we might not always be victorious, but we will be at the table, we will have a bully pulpit, and we will advocate for our rights. And there's nothing more important than that when it comes to living in a country that can trample all over them.
I feel like I'm definitely concluded that democracy is broken, and I'm just confused as to what the right way forward is and how to change it.